Welcome, everybody, back to another special episode of the Amateur Experts podcast, where we are experts on absolutely nothing. And yes, your eyes don't deceive you. That is Jared on a weekday joining us. What's
It's
going
officially
on?
Wednesday now.
Yeah. And so just before we do the introductions, we just want to let you know it's going to be a really fun episode today. Now that there are all three of us together, we're going to revisit a little bit of our playoff outlook tier list that we did a few weeks back. Now, obviously, we've had a crazy 3 weeks, the last 3 weeks. And there's been a lot of shakeup in the NFL. So now we have all three of us on here to discuss it. We're going to rank the teams live on the podcast, on YouTube. And, we're going to talk a little bit about how things have kind of really shaken up. So I'm your host, Landon Oliver, here with my co-host, Andrew Scott, and my other co-host, Jared Holly. You guys doing all right?
Doing good, man. Feels good to have all three of us here for a weekday. This is nice, man. We had to stay up a little later than we usually do to record a show to make it happen, but I'm a night owl anyway, so I'm here for it.
I'm on vacation.
Yeah, right. I'm really glad we're doing this tier list again, man, because like you said, it's been a few weeks, and we could have done it the very next week, and it would have changed a ton. Because at 1 week in NFL time is like 6 months in normal people time. So with how much stuff changes on a week-to-week basis, so I'm looking forward to see how much different we feel about these teams compared to how we did a few weeks ago.
Yeah, that's true. Well, before we do get started, there is one thing that doesn't change, and it seems like it's just a constant in the NFL this year, and that's Jonathan Taylor. That's Jonathan Taylor being the best running back in football.
Go ahead, go off, man. Do your thing.
All right, look. Let me stretch. Let me get ready. I'm here to tell y'all real quick. I've been telling y'all for a few weeks now. Even before the Derrick Henry injury, I was like, look, this he just looks different. Like there's just, he was great last year as his rookie year, but he came into this year. The first 2-3 weeks, they kind of, tried to do the whole split carry thing. Marlon Mack was getting the ball. He carried the ball 10 times total against the Titans in the first matchup with Carson Wentz on 2 ankles. Like, there's just a lot going on the first 3 weeks. It's like they were trying to find their identity. Let me tell you, the last 8 weeks,
they found it.
Yeah, they found that identity. And that identity is give Jonathan Taylor the fucking football. And it's working. This dude is unreal. He's just unreal. Everything and this weekend, the big argument, has been like, well, he did it against the Jets. He did it against the Jaguars. Well, this week he went up against, which I know they might be a little bit of fool's gold. I know Jared thinks so. But the Bills defense, granted with the soft schedule, regardless, they're still an NFL defense, and they did rank number 1 going into the game, in total team defense, rush defense, pass defense, scoring defense. This was the number 1 ranked defense in the NFL coming into this game. And this dude just sunned them in, at home too. Like they played at home.
In Buffalo.
In Buffalo. The weather's bad. And he didn't just do it in the ground game. He did it in the pass game. He did, Carson Wentz didn't really have to do much of anything. It was either throw the ball to JT, hand the ball to JT, and just get out of the fucking way. Now we'll say Carson Wentz did make a fantastic play on that scramble. He ducked under those 2 guys, ran it for about 20 yards.
Yeah, that was nice.
Converted that 3rd down. He made a stupid, awesome throw to T.Y. Hilton. He was under pressure. He was getting hit, slung the ball in. I mean, this dude couldn't have walk it to him Wentz. He couldn't have walked it to the T.Y. Hilton better. So some really critical 3rd down plays by Carson Wentz, but outside of those 2 plays, he didn't really have to do much because Jonathan Taylor annihilated. And look, he might be in the MVP picture. There's some talk after this week that they're like Colts have won 5 of 6. They're right in the thick of the playoff race.
What he's doing right now is,
I was going to say it hasn't been done since. Well, what he did last week has only been done a handful of times in NFL history. But what he's been doing the last 8 weeks, Jared's right. It hasn't been done since LaDainian Tomlinson's, historic season that he won MVP back in 2006. And that's what kind of rarefied air that this dude is in right now, as far as in terms of, and what's crazy to me is, like, he still has less carries than Derrick. Like, Derrick Henry hasn't played in 3 weeks basically, and Jonathan Taylor still has like 30 something less carries than he does. So I mean, like, just the efficiency that he's doing this like on, like, and I mean, you see what happens whenever he got a Derrick Henry workload this week against the number 1 defense. He got 32 carries and I think 3 or 4 receptions. So I mean, he got a huge workload this week, and it was a historic evening. Normally he's, putting up 150 and, 1 to 2 touchdowns on 20 touches. But yeah, like, I still don't know if he's the MVP, just because the Colts aren't in the playoffs yet. And it's so hard to give a running back a most valuable player award.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, it was like he's basically going to have to break Eric Dickerson's record if he wants to get the MVP, with the way that the NFL values quarterbacks. And like I've been saying this for like 3-4 years now, is they need to change the MVP to the best quarterback award, and then change the offensive player
kind of like
to the best non-quarterback
kind of
award.
like how baseball has the Cy Young award for pitchers, and then they have an MVP award for.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the reality, man. Like, it's so hard for anybody outside of a quarterback.
Well, here's the thing that's opened the door to it, is the fact that, like, there's not been really any, every week there seems to be quarterback play. It's just so up and down this year.
I was gonna say it's a down year for quarterback.
Yeah, so I mean, there's quarterbacks that have had, like, if you look at
Tom Brady ain't looking too down outside of maybe 1 week.
Well, I mean, they've lost the last 2 weeks. I mean, outside of tonight, but
he's thrown quite a few interceptions over the last few weeks.
Yeah,
I mean, he threw 4 over the last 2 weeks, but I'm saying if you look at his season in totality up to this point, like, he's like,
that's what I'm saying though, is it seems like, like, you'll have a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers or Josh Allen had a little bit of a stretch. Tom Brady's had a stretch. Lamar Jackson's had a stretch where they're playing, fantastic, and then they'll go 2 or 3 weeks where they're just pedestrian, and then somebody else surges, and then it's just been a very up and down.
This year has been the most inconsistent for a lot of reasons. I mean,
which is fantastic for parity.
Like, right now, Lane and I are on cloud 9. 3 weeks ago, Drew was on cloud 9 with the way the Rams were playing. Like, it's just been that kind of year where it's like, there's, outside of Arizona, like, no team has been consistent, and Arizona's not been playing with Kyler for the last couple of weeks,
or DeAndre Hopkins, or JJ Watt
9-2. So that's like, it's if there was ever a year for it to be outside of a quarterback, it might be this year. But Brady,
that's what I'm saying.
Brady would be the front runner right now, in my opinion.
But yeah, he's on pace right now for, I think, 2,300 scrimmage yards. I think it's like
really hard to
right under 1,800 rushing yards, 500 receiving yards, and 25 touchdowns is what he's on pace for. And if he does that, and the Colts make a run and get into the playoffs, it's hard to argue against him not being the MVP, because and I also see, like, the big thing now on the internet, of course it's always Titans fans, because they're butthurt, but which, I mean, then again, like, if I just lost to the Houston Texans, I'd be butthurt too. But they're saying, well, if Derrick Henry didn't win it last year, you can't give it to Jonathan Taylor. Well, look, Jonathan Taylor is on pace to have more yards, more touchdowns, more yards per carry, more yards after contact, like, all while playing with a worse offensive line than Derrick Henry has had the last couple of years as far as run blocking efficiency.
So they're different players, but just to give you an idea,
they're very different players.
Oh, I'm not even talking about Derrick Henry. The Todd Gurley, this is always the thing that rings my mind to me, as being a Rams fan. The year that Todd Gurley went crazy, I wanted him to win MVP. He got offensive player of the year, which is what I expected to happen. That year he had 2,093 total yards, averaged 4.7 yards a carry, and had 19 touchdowns. So that was the year he had, and so that's not Jonathan Taylor's on pace to better that slightly. So I think, if I remember correctly, I have the numbers you just said.
Yeah, he's on pace for 20. I think it was like
25.
23, 92. I'm trying to think of like the actual specific numbers, but it's almost 2,400 scrimmage yards.
Yeah.
25 touchdowns, and he's on pace for 6.8 yards per carry.
So about 300 more total yards and 6 more touchdowns than Gurley had the year he won Offensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, Taylor already has 15 touchdowns, I believe, and there's still
a touchdown game will help out on that.
Yep.
I would like to see it because I'm tired of seeing quarterbacks win MVP every year, but I just don't think I think he has a very, very, very high chance of winning Offensive Player of the Year now.
It's going to depend on
Cooper
the team.
Kupp.
Yeah, it's going to depend on the team's success, though. That's the thing.
That's going to be a big part of it. Yeah.
Yep. So if the Colts miss the playoffs, it's going to be hard to give him, any kind of awards, because even as great as he is,
if it doesn't elevate the team to the playoffs, did it really matter?
Exactly.
Which it should, but I feel like that's the way the general public's gonna look at it.
Yeah, right. And but even then, I don't know. Right now, which we'll get into it in here in our tier list, but it's hard to imagine the team with him playing the way he's playing, the defense playing the way they're playing. Carson Wentz playing some of the best football of his career, just very mistake free, making big plays, when it counts. They've won 5, this team started 1-4 and they're above 500 right
now.
But
they had a really tough schedule early on.
And a lot of injuries. Yeah.
Injuries. The tough schedule softened up, but then, you guys did what you were supposed to do with the soft part of the schedule. And then you face Buffalo, and you continued to do what you had been doing.
And so now they play Tampa this weekend, but then after that, I believe they have the Texans after that, which
if Jonathan Taylor runs for 150 on Tampa, he's the league MVP.
Well, they're not supposed to, I don't know if they'll have Vita Vea back or not. I know he missed
a big part of their run defense.
Yeah, he missed the game. He missed the game tonight. He didn't play tonight, and I don't know.
Khalil Herbert ran for 100 yards on the Buccaneers a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
They're still a tough run defense.
Yeah, I worry about the Bucs though. The Bucs, what they're good at is what the Colts are not good at, if that makes sense. They want to pass the ball. It's basically and they want to stop the run. And
everybody talks about Tampa being such a great run defense. I believe the Colts have been a better run defense this year than Tampa has.
Yeah, the Colts have been a very good run defense.
But Tampa doesn't care if they. Tampa doesn't care if they can't run the ball.
Yeah, but exactly. So the pass rush, which is finally starting to kind of emerge for the Colts, because Kwity Paye's getting back healthy. Dayo Dangbo came back, who was our second round pass rush pick. Grover Stewart's been playing fantastic. This is all a long-winded thing to say. I'm not turning this into a Colts thing, but it's just a long-winded way to say Jonathan Taylor right now, despite what Madden NFL thinks, because he's not even a top 10 running back on there. I don't even think it's even the running back thing's debatable anymore, because there's literally no metric you can put that he's not the best at except carries. That's the only thing that he's not number one in.
You're not going to get an argument from me, man. I said the same thing on the podcast last week. Prior to this Bills episode, I said that I was comfortable saying that JT is the best running back in the league. There's a lot of talented running backs.
Yeah, and that's not disparaging any other running back, but
Nick Chubb, CMC, Zeke, Dalvin Cook,
Kamara's still there.
Kamara. There's a lot of talented running backs, man. But Jonathan Taylor is at the top of the list for me
but
right
that's
now.
What I'm saying. I don't think it's even to the point of where the running back thing's debatable. Now I think you're getting into the tier of is he possibly the best player in the league? Position be damned. Is he that good? As far as offensive players go. Because
once you make it to the top of your position, I feel like that anybody at the top of their position kind of automatically you get put into that question.
Yeah,
and if you're the best running back, if you're the best receiver, if you're the best tight end, whatever, at that point you should be the discussion for are you the best offensive player in the league? That's just natural.
Yeah.
And he is the best running back, so he should be in that conversation.
Yeah. And right now, there's nobody playing the game of football better than Jonathan Taylor's playing the game of football.
I just want to say one more thing, and then I'm ready to move on.
Yeah.
So we do our DFS show on Fridays, but I will say Jonathan Taylor was 5% owned on FanDuel this week, and I locked him in every lineup I set, and he went bananas. I had him and Jefferson in one lineup.
It's the 1 week we didn't get together for a DFS show. We took the weekend off, and I'll be damned if you don't hit for all, man.
Hundreds of dollars. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
it was pretty good. It would have been a great week if it wasn't for Joe Mixon.
Yeah. Jonathan Taylor had, I believe they said it was the 4th highest scoring day in FanDuel history.
51.9 fantasy points in half point PPR.
Yeah. Speaking of, I played against Jonathan Taylor in our fantasy league, me and Drew. I played against him this week, so it was very bittersweet. Watching him, every touchdown he scored, I was, because we were driving back from Tennessee. My little brother got married this weekend, so congratulations to him. It was awesome to stand up there with him and just be a part of that day. Can't believe he's old enough to be married, but it's super awesome. So we were coming back from Tennessee, where they got married down in Tennessee. We were driving back up, going through Nashville while the game started. I wish I would have known what was going to happen, because I totally would have pulled off to Nissan Stadium and bought a ticket to go into that game. That would have been a great game to attend. But alas, we kept going. So we're driving through Nashville, and there's no better place to watch the Colts dominate a football game than in Nashville, Tennessee. Every touchdown Jonathan Taylor scored, I'm sitting there, and like Emily's beside me, and I'm just like, yeah, let's go. And then I checked my fantasy score, and I'd be like, oh fuck. At the end of the day, I somehow still won that game. I won our fantasy game, our matchup. So I survived the Jonathan Taylor onslaught.
Makes the Jonathan Taylor week even that much
exactly. I was gonna say it makes it just that much better. I told Emily, the Titans lost to the Texans. The Colts are above 500. Jonathan Taylor went bananas, and I won my fantasy matchup this week despite playing against Jonathan Taylor. What a week of football! What a way to start Thanksgiving week. Let's just kick it off right.
The Rams were on bye, so they couldn't tear my heart out this week. So
they're gonna bounce back.
That was I'm not too worried. This was a very well timed bye week for them after the last couple of weeks. So I'm glad that the bye week was this week. But yeah, I mean, it was a good week of football, another crazy week of football, and another crazy week of games that have led us to. It's reminded us that we think we have an idea of what's going on, and we actually have no idea what's going on. So let's further prove that by ranking these teams in a tier list, and then letting week 12 tell us that we still have no idea what's going on. You guys good with that?
Yeah, let's go ahead and get started, man. I'm really excited. Cool. So right now, just to go over it, if you're watching on YouTube, you can already see it, but if you're not, we do have 6 lists here that we are going to talk about. All 32 teams, put them in one of these 6 lists, and those lists are Super Bowl contenders at the top, playoff contenders underneath that, playoff pretenders underneath that, stink instead of suck, so teams that are just kind of average, like they're not going to make the playoffs, but they're also not bottom feeders, which is
I'm proud of that one,
which is a lower one. And then finally, our last tier for the worst teams, or should I say team, is just the Lions. They're just in a tier all by themselves. They're awful. We don't want to bring that. We don't want to bring the Lions and Jared Goff's negative energy into any of the other tiers. So they suck so bad they get their own. Those are our 6 tiers. We will go ahead and talk about all 6 of those, and let's just go ahead and get out of the way. Let's go ahead and start with the Lions. Let's just throw them into the Lions category.
I think they fit really well with the Lions.
Yes.
So we'll put them there.
Yeah. So they're at the bottom. There's not really too much to say. Although Jared, I will give Jared credit. He did say on the podcast that I missed, I was listening back to it. We were going through it, and he said the Lions.
I said it before the Roethlisberger news came out too.
Yeah, he did. He didn't have the
Yeah.
Roethlisberger news to go off
Yeah,
of.
he said the Lions will not lose this week. He didn't say the Lions were going to win. He said the Lions would not lose. And by God, the Lions did not lose. So shout out to Big Jared for the technical call. I'm just going to go ahead and throw the technicality in there. Jared was correct. The Lions did not
all the
lose.
Jets and the Lions this year.
Yeah. So yeah, now do we want to start, go from the bottom up, or do we just want to start from the top and go down? Which one would you rather do?
I think we can knock out the next bottom tier just because that one, I feel like that one should be pretty easy, and then maybe work our way to the top. But let's go ahead. Let's get the negative out of the way. Let's get the bottom feeders. But let's get them where they belong.
All right. So bottom feeders. I think we can all kind of agree here to throw the Jacksonville Jaguars into the bottom.
Absolutely. Feeders. Yeah, absolutely.
We can all agree to throw the Houston Texans.
Just to put more shame on the Titans for losing this game. They lost to a bottom feeder who is absolutely a bottom feeder.
We can throw, especially after tonight, the New York Giants.
Yeah. As long as they've got Dan Jones at quarterback, I think they're a bottom feeder. You got any problem with this so far, Jared?
No, I played Daniel Jones tonight. I don't even want to think about it. It was a rough night tonight.
And that stinks.
Yeah, and also just to keep it in the family, we'll throw the New York Jets up there.
I was gonna say the other New York team, absolutely. They belong next to each other.
Just to throw a little more shame on the Titans.
The other team that they lost to this year. All right.
And then let's see here.
I think that might be the line.
Yeah,
I'm good with that.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I think that looks pretty accurate.
Before the last couple of weeks, I might have put Miami in there, but I think that they have kind of gotten into the stink instead of suck rather than the bottom feeders.
I think they're playing for their coach right now. I think he's on the hot seat for sure, and I think he's a locker room guy.
Okay, so one other little wrinkle I want to put in this one that we're doing. Okay. Let's rank the teams inside the tiers. Let's put them in order where they the best team's going to be right here closest to this, and we'll work our way over. So of these four teams, who would you say is the best of the four? I think we could probably say the Texans is the worst, right?
For the future?
No, I would actually think the Texans would actually be the best out of the four.
Okay. Just for this year.
Yeah, because, we've seen them whenever Tyrod Taylor plays, they are a little bit different of a team as opposed to Davis Mills.
Yeah,
they've won a couple games with Tyrod. Then outside of that, I would probably rank the Giants. I think the Giants I think the Jets. I would go Giants, Jaguars, Jets.
So this is almost how I would have it. I would have had the Giants, the Jags, the Texans, and the Jets. That would have been how I have no problem with how we have it right now, but I would have had Giants, Jags, Texans, Jets.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, they all four suck ass.
Yeah, they're all terrible. It's just this discussion isn't as fun right now as I think it's going to be once we get up into playoff contenders and things. I think it'll be more fun to rank them within their tier, which is why I wanted to do this. It's not necessarily as important right here, but just for the sake of of continuity, I figure we could do it down here too. Jared, what do you think of these four teams? Where do you think they should be?
It's about where I would have it. I think the Jets are a little bit better right now than Jacksonville. I think they have a quarterback dilemma because of injury, but they've got some players coming around, and I feel like
we hadn't really got to see what the Jets are like because they've been without Zach Wilson for a few weeks.
Yeah, Michael Carter, they finally gave him the nod, and he's been
and now he's out for a few weeks.
Yeah,
in typical NFL fashion.
But outside of that, I'm pretty much content with that too. The Giants are just, man, I really thought their defense was playing better the last few weeks, and they're just not a good
Daniel
team
Jones is just so bad.
He is.
God, really watching him play tonight, it was just like, oh my
see the
God.
pick he threw?
Which one?
Well, the first one.
The one where he threw it to the defensive lineman?
Oh. Yeah.
God, that was awful.
Yeah, he loved throwing to linemen tonight.
Yeah.
They were whether they were Giants linemen or Bucks linemen.
He was probably just trying to target his lineman again, all reliable, and just missed it was probably what happened there.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get out of the let's get out of the dumpster.
Who would have thought the Giants left tackle would have more touchdowns than Kenny Golladay?
God, that's another thing. He missed Kenny Golladay across the middle, wide open for a touchdown.
$70 million does not buy what it used to buy.
Yeah, he's been a waste there, man. Absolute waste.
Hey, he pays the money. To be fair, though, he went from the Lions to a bottom feeder, so he did kind of upgrade.
It's true. He did jump a tier. But
he got paid a lot of money. So
yeah,
great business decision for him.
All right, so Super Bowl contenders.
Yeah, let's go ahead and knock this out. I think this.
Yeah, let's go to the top.
Yep. I think Arizona is up there.
We've got to put Arizona up there.
That's for sure. And really, that's the only true Super Bowl contender lock right now. I think all the other teams have question marks. But I still think there are some teams that do deserve to be up there. Namely, I think the Green Bay Packers have played well enough to put themselves in that position. And to me, I don't know. I still need to see a little bit more from the Rams to put them in the same tier as those two. But I think they're right there. I think they could very easily be up there here within the next couple of weeks because
I think they're probably the best team in the next tier.
Yeah, they have a very tough schedule remaining, and if they beat a few of these, Arizona for one, I believe they play San Francisco again.
They play Green Bay next week coming off the bye.
Yeah, so
they got to play Baltimore.
Yeah, so they could beat a few of these teams, and they could very well be. You could be looking at them as the top Super Bowl contender team here in about 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah, recency bias is a real thing, and for the Rams it should be because there was a lot of really concerning stuff that they put on tape the last 2 weeks. Like it's not like it's just bias or anything that they were bad for 2 weeks so now they suck. It's not that extreme, but there's been some definite, concerning stuff they put on tape the last 2 weeks in a row. So, the bye week came at a good time. They've got some really solid opponents coming up on the schedule that they're going to get to prove what kind of team they are. So, yeah, but right now, even as a Rams fan right now, I wouldn't be comfortable. I don't think that they're as good as Arizona or Green Bay right now. So, as far as the NFC goes, I think that's the only other two teams that you can really discuss to put in this from the NFC where you have to decide if they're Super Bowl contenders or playoff contenders is the Cowboys and the Bucks. And then the Cowboys, again, it's recent, but the game they had this week against the Chiefs, granted they were missing Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb got knocked out in the game.
But let's not forget too is they're also just a couple weeks away from that game in
getting killed by Denver. Yeah.
It's not like it's not like this week just kind of came out of nowhere.
I don't think Dak's 100%. I think his injury was a lot more than what they put on. And I will say one thing, they lost to Kansas City. Their defense played extremely well in that game.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're completely...
Michael Parsons is, I think, by far right now, defensive rookie of the year.
Yeah, he should be.
Kansas City struggled this season on both ends of the ball, but it's still an Arrowhead, and the Cowboys went in there and they gave up 19 points to Patrick Mahomes. That's not a bad day.
They might not have got a win in the column, but I think just playing like that, if the offense can continue to catch up, which the offense, it seems to be like that's been the main issue for them this season. The defense has really kind of played well. And then like the game in Denver, the game in Kansas City.
Well, look, one thing I'll say about this game in Kansas City, their left tackle, Tyron Smith, right?
Yeah.
In games where he doesn't play, Dak's numbers are not good. Like there's been a decent amount of games now where you can have a split of with Tyron versus without, and Dak's numbers are completely different whenever he doesn't have his left tackle.
I think he's, outside of the left tackle there in San Francisco, he's probably the best offensive lineman in the NFL. So anytime that guy goes down, it's I mean, that's a major, major, major loss for that team.
Right.
And then, like Jared said, like you guys pointed out, they were, CeeDee Lamb did get hurt in that game. Ezekiel Elliott did get hurt in that game. Amari Cooper was out because of the COVID protocols.
He's going to be out again next week too for Thanksgiving.
Again. Yep, he's out again here in a few days on the Thanksgiving game. So I mean, they were missing some very, very, very vital pieces on that offense. But that
so
means
are they Super Bowl contenders or are they playoff?
I would say playoff.
I would say playoff contenders. I would go
ahead
and put Dallas in that.
All right. So the only
they just
NFC
have to get a little more consistency for me to put them in Super Bowl contenders. And really, in all honesty, those top two teams would be the only two teams I think that deserve to be in the Super Bowl contenders because they've been, outside of the Green Bay game this week, they've been the only two teams to me that have consistently played well on tape.
There's one more team. And it's crazy to say it. The Patriots are a Super Bowl contender, man.
I'm not ready to go there just yet.
No, I'm not either.
I'm just like the way they play. Like,
no, I mean we'll get to them here in just a second, but yeah, I don't think they're up there with those two teams just yet. Now we'll see what happens. They still have to play Buffalo twice. They still have to play Indianapolis, and they have the Tennessee Titans this week. So those are four very, very vital matchups for them.
That's true.
And they're the way they've been playing though, they are very capable. I mean, so we'll get to them.
They're the 1 seed right now, right?
No, Tennessee is still the 1 seed.
Tennessee's still 1-0.
Yes.
Yeah, so you got Tennessee as the 1 seed, the Ravens are the 2 seed. They did jump up to the 3 seed, and then the Chiefs are the 4, and then you've got the Bengals, the Chargers, and the Bills as the wild card teams in the AFC right now. So that was going to be my next question. So the NFC, the only other team really to talk about is Tampa Bay. Are they Super Bowl contenders or playoff contenders? I mean, I think we're pretty.
Tough. They're tough. If there was another tier in between that, and we could rank them right on the line, that's where I would want to put them. Because they haven't looked good. They've dropped some really bad games, but at the end of the day, I think you're always going to be a Super Bowl contender when you have Tom Brady and those offensive weapons. So I mean, I'm not going to be the guy that's going to leave Tom Brady out of the Super Bowl contender category. So it's your guys' call on where you would want to.
I don't think they've had a signature win all season.
No, they've played some very rough teams. They've had.
I don't think they've had a healthy. I don't think they've had a healthy team all season either. Especially on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah,
like
Antonio secondary. Loss. Yeah, their secondary has been annihilated. So let's go ahead and look.
This is how I feel about it.
But then again,
things change a lot in the NFL year to year. But the way I feel about it is, when healthy, they have literally the exact same roster as they had whenever they won the Super Bowl last year. So if they can get healthy before the playoffs start, and you have Tom Brady at quarterback, that if the team that won the Super Bowl last year, that the entire roster damn near came back this year, they're absolutely a Super Bowl contender for me.
So yeah, let's look here. So they did, they have had some signature wins. They did beat the Cowboys early, the first game of the year. They beat the Cowboys.
That was a great game to kick off the season.
Fantastic game. They did beat New England in New England, which, if you want to put New England in the Super Bowl contenders, Tampa Bay did beat them in New England. And they also beat the Eagles, who are riding a pretty decent hot streak right now. So, I mean, I think they're a pretty decent team. That being said, they did lose to Washington. They did lose to the Saints without Jameis Winston, without, whenever
the Saints defense has given Brady fits the last couple of years.
Yeah.
That's kind of
division games are always tough. They did lose to the Rams. And I think that's it. So, I mean, they do have some pretty good wins over some good teams, but they also have some bad losses as well. So, I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, like I said, I'm not going to be the guy that's going to leave Tom Brady out of the Super Bowl contender tier. I think as long as that guy is under center, and you have Mike Evans, you have Chris Godwin, that offensive line is fantastic. The pass rush is still really good, regardless of the secondary. they're
And the secondary is not terrible whenever they're all healthy. They just haven't been healthy all year. I mean, they're
Yeah.
still not, even when
And,
healthy, they're
and
not like
and here's the
best in the
thing too
league.
is like,
But
I don't even want to use that as because every team it seems like has dealt with major injuries. So I mean, to me, I don't know if you can necessarily use injuries as an excuse because I mean, look at Arizona, for example. Arizona's going out, they're winning games against, I mean, they're winning games with Colt McCoy and, DeAndre Hopkins isn't playing. JJ Watt was lost for the season. Tennessee's dealt with injuries. Indianapolis has dealt with major injuries. Cleveland.
oh yeah, no, I'm not saying it's an excuse. I'm just saying when those teams, we haven't necessarily always seen what they can do when they're all healthy. Tampa Bay is a rare example of, we literally saw that entire team on the field last year. And things change, players change, like players get better or worse as from old season to new. I'm not saying it's going to be,
you can even say
it's not going to
week
be
to week.
yeah, it's not going to be copy paste. Well, this team was great last year, so now they're great this year because they have all the same players. Like, it's not a copy paste scenario. I'm just saying Tampa is a team we truly have not seen healthy the entire year.
Yeah, I agree. And like I said, to me, like, I would put them in Super Bowl contenders. It seems like you would put them in Super Bowl contenders.
I think so too.
But in saying that though, like in spirit of what we were doing down here at the bottom, I do think that they should be the last of these guys. I think this is the order it should be right here with Arizona, Green Bay, and then Tampa.
Yeah, and to me, that's where it would end. I don't think I would put any AFC.
So that's what I was going to say. There's no AFC team we're going to put in the Super Bowl because somebody's got to make the Super Bowl in the AFC.
Yeah, but I mean, like,
but it's just, but like none of us have confidence in saying who.
Yeah, it's so exactly. It's so muddy that, like, yes, somebody will be in the Super Bowl for the AFC.
I think we got Jared's pick, but
yeah, I mean, somebody will be in the AFC for the Super Bowl, but that doesn't necessarily make them, I guess, like Super Bowl contenders, if that makes any sense. Like they'll be there by default because there has to be a team. But if all these teams were playing on, there were no conferences.
Right, just like 1 through 16.
Yeah, exactly. You're not ranking any AFC team. I don't know
above those.
I don't even those 5. I don't know if any AFC team would be better than the Rams, would be better than the Cowboys.
It's tough.
So
I want to make one more point on Tampa too. The difference between this team this year and last year's was the Saints won that division last year. They were a much more complete team. Even though Drew Brees had fallen off, like, they were still a more complete team, where this year they're going to win that division no matter what. So they can afford to set guys out longer that are dealing with injuries.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good point.
So, I mean, they're definitely a Super Bowl contender for that alone. When they get everybody out there on the field, like Antonio Brown's going to make that offense more explosive. Like,
Gronk being back's a big deal.
Gronk came back tonight.
He looked great tonight too. He made a big difference in the game tonight.
Yeah, even in limited usage, they didn't use him that much, but whenever they did, I mean, he looked like Gronk.
They could beat you in so many ways too, man. Like, that's the thing that's dangerous about that team.
Now we'll see what happens. Like I said, they play the Colts this Sunday. So I mean, that's
gonna be such a good game.
Yeah, so I mean that could be an interesting game. So yeah, we'll move on. We will put them in Super Bowl contenders right now, but as always, NFL
things change so much. We could do this every week and it would be completely different.
Yeah. So now let's go to are we done with Super Bowl contenders? You want to move to the stink instead of suck tier, and then we could argue about the 2 other tiers after that.
Yeah, we can iron out stink instead of suck. I don't think that would take too long. I think that's a pretty easy.
Yeah, so I mean, you would have the Falcons. To me, would probably, they would be in the stink instead of suck. The Dolphins would be in there.
Yep.
The Bears would be in there.
Yep. Where are they? There they are.
Yeah, there they are.
It pains me to say
the Broncos, the Panthers,
the Seahawks.
Yeah, the Seahawks would be in there.
I almost want to put them in the bottom feeders, man.
Who, Seattle?
Yeah, they're bad.
Yeah, man.
Like, Russell Wilson's still not right.
Washington. I would put Washington in there. And this might be a little hot take-ish, a little bit. I would put the Raiders in there.
I agree.
So I mean, I would throw the Raiders.
You can make an argument if you want to because they are still technically on the bubble. They're 5-5, and right now,
but they're
6-4 is.
Yeah, they're 5-5, but they're going in the wrong.
Oh yeah, they've lost their last 2 games. Yeah, they went from first in the AFC West to third in the AFC West within a matter of like 2 weeks.
Yeah,
I have no problem with that. I think they're in this category too.
Yeah,
I don't even think it's hot takeish, to be honest with you.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and throw them in there. And yeah, to me, that's
the Saints.
I think that they fit better in this one right here.
Exactly. That's where I would have the Saints.
They will be in the running for a playoff spot, but I don't think they're a legit threat, though.
Yeah. And so, do we want to rank these teams in this category?
Yeah. So, who's the best team?
So, to me, the best team, I will say, I like Carolina.
I do too, man. That was gonna be my pick. I was trying to decide between Carolina and
the defense
is
there. Cam is back and played really well.
That made me so happy. That was my
really good.
Part.
McCaffrey is back, which is a big part of why Cam looked so good. McCaffrey being back, but this Carolina here in a few weeks, they could very well move up a tier and be in that contenders, be in contention for the playoffs. I think they are in contention for the playoffs right now.
Yeah,
I want to say
they right there. I mean, they're the 10th seed, but they're 5-6, and the 6 and 7 seed are both 5-5.
Yeah,
exactly. They're absolutely right there.
Yeah, so I mean, if they can get on a run, Carolina, if Cam is back and Cam made some really good throws in that game too.
Cam looked good, man. You could tell he just felt good being back. All the pregame videos that were coming out, like I saw some comments like, "Oh, he's making it all about himself" and stuff like that. Like, no, the dude was just legitimately happy. Like you could tell it just felt right.
Yeah, and as an NFL fan, like regardless of your feelings on Cam Newton, as a person or anything like that.
I don't even know how you can feel bad about. Like, I don't even know how you could be conflicted about Cam Newton as a person because he's an incredible individual. Like, if you've ever spent any time looking up what Cam does for, like the community that he's involved in and stuff like that.
People take his post game interviews. And
I think that's what I was going to say. I think
the most ridiculous.
Whenever they're winning and things are good, it's good. But then when they're losing, it's the towel over the head.
It's the Super Bowl thing. People were so upset about how he acted after he lost the Super Bowl. The guy lost the fucking Super Bowl. You expect him to be happy-go-lucky?
Exactly.
Like he lost the Super Bowl.
Exactly. Yeah.
I
like Cam.
I don't want to get off on a Cam Newton tangent because I will sit here and defend him for hours. Like I've got.
Well, I think all three of us are in that same boat. I think all three of us are.
I love Cam Newton to death, man. So it made me so happy to see his debut go that well. I wish he would have been able to lead a game-winning drive. They did end up losing to Washington, but he looked good. And it was just it felt right to see him back in the Carolina blue.
Yeah, there is one more team I do want to throw in this category.
Oh, okay. Is it a team we were really high on?
Yep.
You want to put Cleveland in here, huh?
I do want to put Cleveland in here. They looked bad this week, man. Like
yeah,
they're
the biggest jigsaw puzzle in the NFL.
They're the biggest disappointment to me in the NFL. I mean, even the big name free like John Johnson has been really bad this year.
There's people that had them in the Super Bowl.
I mean, we were really high. We didn't have them in the Super Bowl as far as like as far as our picks go, but we both agreed they were contenders for the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
they're last in the AFC North right now, but they're still 6-5, and they're literally like one win away from being back in the playoff picture.
You know what's crazy about so they're built as a team I would absolutely love in the playoffs. Like they run the ball.
I would say that. Defense. Yeah, I was gonna say I would say that if their defense wasn't so bad for whatever reason.
And I'm shocked it's as bad as it is too.
That's
I had
inexplicably bad. They have probably like on paper one of the top 2 to 3 talented units as far as names and talent go that they've just not performed. They haven't lived up to expectations, and that's really holding them back. Losing Nick Chubb was a big deal. Losing Kareem Hunt was a big deal.
Nick Chubb being back was probably the only reason that they beat.
Yeah.
They
The
played
Lions.
They played the Lions this week, right?
And they looked
Yeah.
bad.
They
Baker
squeaked out a
looked
win because of
bad.
Nick Chubb. Which
The Lions have played some tough games. this season.
Baker's also
Baker is
injured.
dealing with some injuries
Yeah,
too.
he's injured as well. So
His wife made sure to let everybody know that.
That's what I'm saying. Like it seems like we can hit this on every we could hit this on every single team we talk about, where it's like, oh well, this guy's banged up, they're missing this guy, they're missing this guy. Every team we talk about, we can say that. Even the Lions, we can say that about. At the end of the day, all these teams are dealing with this with injuries. And
Does Aaron Rodgers have a better offensive line than the Cleveland Browns?
No.
Especially now.
Cleveland has the best
Bakhtiari
offensive line in
playing
football.
not playing basically the entire year. Like,
yeah,
So
Cleveland
him being injured
now
with the
too,
best offensive line in football.
Elton Jenkins is out for the year now as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's just another all-pro caliber player that the Packers are going to be missing.
I mean, I don't have a problem putting them in stink instead of suck, man. Like,
I
think they should be like right here with Carolina in the front of it. But
I would have them towards the front with Carolina. I think those two are right there on the line. But
Is it safe to say they're the biggest disappointment so far this season?
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
All
right.
Then I would probably put
iron the rest of
Oakland.
this out.
I would probably put Oakland up there because I think they do have the ability to win games. But
Washington or Miami, one of the two.
Denver. I would probably put
The
Denver
Bears.
next.
I like Chicago.
I don't like Chicago.
Justin Fields the last few weeks. It sucks that Khalil Mack is
I was
hurt,
gonna say I don't like Chicago without Khalil Mack. That's my big hang up with them.
and their secondary is rough. But I've been really
Well, now Andy
encouraged by what
Dalton's
I've
gonna
seen
be
from
back,
Justin
but Andy
Fields the last
Dalton.
couple weeks.
Well, Andy Dalton's been better than Justin Fields when he played. I mean
Not Justin Fields the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Justin Fields the last 2 weeks has been better than Andy Dalton was the few weeks he started this
not
year.
this week. He was high.
And Dalton came in through 2 touchdowns in that game.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Andy Dalton was better this
pretty good.
week, and because that offense was anemic until Andy Dalton got into that game. So yeah, I still think the Broncos are better than the Bears.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
So I'll put the Broncos up there.
Wow, Seattle might be the worst team on this list.
Nah,
I think
this
the
is where I would put
Dolphins.
Seattle. I would put Seattle right here after the Broncos personally. Just me personally. I don't believe that what we've seen from Russ is what we're going to continue to see from
Yeah,
Russ.
They have no run game at all.
Yeah, I was
and
going
they
to
play
say
terrible
it's not even
defense.
necessarily Russ. I mean, Russ has played bad, but the offensive line is not good. The running game, like without Chris Carson, is not good. The defense is not good. I mean, it's basically Russ and the 2 receivers, and if they have a bad game, then it's a wrap. There's no room for error with Seattle.
No.
I mean, I think them and Atlanta are kind of in the same territory for me.
Yeah, Atlanta's another one of those.
All right, so I'll
There's-
drop Atlanta down here and drop Seattle down here with them.
I think I think Washington, I would
Flip
probably
them
have
over
next.
Chicago.
Yeah. And then,
So
That's-
like that right there.
yep, that's about where I would have it.
I don't have a problem with that.
I like Chicago
We're
a little more, but I'll
basically
go with
picking at straws at this point with these guys.
Yeah.
Is there
All
any
right.
team in that list that could make the playoffs? I'm sure Carolina and Cleveland are the ones. where
Yeah, I
all of
think
us-
Carolina and Cleveland are the only ones to me that I would choose to.
Yeah.
They could sneak into that 7th seed.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's about it. And honestly, I think there's a lot of teams we're about to put above them that are going to prevent that from happening. But if we were to pick one of them, that would probably be the NFC team would be Carolina. The AFC team would be Cleveland.
Yeah. So now let's go ahead. Let's iron out this playoff contenders. And I'll tell you what.
We could do contenders and pretenders together.
Well, that's
We
what I was
can
going to
kinda
say. Let's
sort this
actually
thing
just
out.
go in order. Let's just go in order here. and let's just hit these teams how they're listed, and let's just rank them all. Let's just go from. So if you're listening to us, we still have in order, we have the Titans, the Vikings, the 49ers, the Ravens, the Bengals, the Colts, the Chargers, the Saints, the Chiefs, the Eagles, the Steelers, the Buffalo Bills, and the New England mac and cheeses, Patriots. So,
and we're going to put them in either playoff contenders or playoff pretenders. We've got everything else ironed out.
Yeah, and we will talk about each team, and the decision, like why we made that decision as well. Excuse me.
The first one up is Tennessee.
And let's start with Tennessee. Yeah, it's also easy for me.
They're playoff pretenders.
What about you, Jared? Where are you?
They're contenders because they beat Indy twice. So they're
a lot's changed since those
games.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, man, that's a whole different ball game.
They're almost guaranteed to make the playoffs. So unless they completely collapse.
They'll make the playoffs, but which is why we have the playoff pretenders and playoff contenders. These are
all they're pretenders. Then
let's clarify that real quick. The rest of the teams that are left, we feel like we have a pretty good. They have a good, like all the teams that are left, they have a good shot at making the playoffs. Yes, missing the playoffs.
They will either make the playoffs or be in contention of making the playoffs.
And so the debate to be had is what type of noise, if any, will they make if they make the playoffs?
Exactly.
And so they're making no noise.
Yeah. So that's kind of what we're talking about is if these teams, if they make the playoffs, how comfortable are you in them being actual contenders that can make a run and, not even necessarily, make a Super Bowl run, but just make some noise in the playoffs, like
win a game or two.
Or
for some of these teams, it can literally win one game.
Yeah, or a team that can make the playoffs
and get bounced.
Yeah, exactly. Just immediately, get bounced. Like teams that nobody is scared to play. Like you would rather see them in the play. Like if you're a fan of the team that plays them in the playoffs.
Like if I was an AFC team. If I was an AFC team of the teams that are in like going over to the playoff picture for the AFC, if I was a fan of an AFC team, I'm looking at the list of teams here. Like
we have the Titans, the Ravens.
I would rather see the Titans over the Ravens, over the Patriots, over the Chiefs.
Yep. Over the Chargers.
Over the Chargers, over the Bills. Like,
yeah.
Over the Colts.
The Titans. The only thing that scares me about the Titans is their pass rush, and that's it. End of list. That's the only thing that scares me is their pass rush. Their secondary doesn't scare me. Their offense without Derrick Henry doesn't scare me. Ryan Tannehill doesn't scare me the way he's been playing.
Yeah, so let's put this in. So the Titans, obviously,
they're the number one seed in the AFC right now. They've got a cake schedule.
Yeah, so here's the thing though. With that, there's actually some interesting numbers to back up why we're saying what we're saying. We're not saying this. Yes, me and Jared are Colts fans, but Andrew's not. Andrew picked them to win the division, and we all agree here. And there's numbers to back this up. So some of the numbers, and this is before they even lost to the Texans. This is season-long numbers that just kind of shows you how odd it is to do what they've been doing as far as winning games, and eventually it's unsustainable. So let me get this pulled up here. I saw today that they have the two games they've won without Derrick Henry were I believe they beat the Rams, and then they also beat who's the other team that they beat? Who do they beat other than the Rams?
I don't remember, to be honest with you.
Oh, they had Derrick Henry. Never mind.
Yeah, no, it wasn't that one. It was oh man, what can I not think of that?
I don't remember.
Yeah. So regardless. So just to give you some context, so the Titans are 23rd in yards per play, which is worse than Washington, the Giants, and Jacksonville on offense. They are also 23rd in opponents' yards per play. So their defense has been worse than Miami, Minnesota, and Atlanta's. The two games that they won, the Rams game, they had as far as this is in the Ryan Tannehill era, they had the number one defensive DVOA performance in the Ryan Tannehill era to beat the Rams. The very next week, they had, let's look up who they played, because like I said, it's not off the top of my head. We're talking about every team here, so it's just getting a little muddled. They beat the Saints. That was the Saints. That's what it was.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so they beat the Saints. They had the number one special teams DVOA performance in the Ryan Tannehill era. So just to beat both of those teams, and they barely skated by the Saints. It took the defense and special teams having the best performance they've had over the last 3 seasons to win those games. Their offense is completely anemic. Ryan Tannehill is turning the ball over at an extremely alarming rate. I believe he has 13 touchdowns to 12 interceptions on the season. Their yards per play, like we pointed out, is and this is even with Derrick Henry. This doesn't take into the account without Derrick Henry, they have averaged under 4 yards per play, which is, I think, by far at this point one of the worst metrics in the league. So this is a team that they're not good on offense. They haven't been great on defense outside of, the few games that the pass rush has really showed up. Their special teams, they made huge special teams gaffes in this game. They just lost to the Houston Texans, who couldn't even spell the word win up until last week. And they've gotten extreme, and I hate saying they've gotten lucky, because you don't win 8 games with all luck. They were, if Derrick Henry was in this team, if AJ Brown was on, was healthy, if Julio Jones was there, if their secondary was fully healthy.
Can you name their wide receiver too?
I believe is that Nikhil Westbrook, and
there you go.
It's the rookie. Yeah.
Yeah. But
there you go.
Chester Rogers is there. Marcus Johnson is there.
Marcus Johnson's been the true wide receiver too, but
they have no firepower, man.
Exactly.
They're a team that gives up a lot of.
Well, there's no threat now, where these teams now are just able to drop back into coverage. Just like the Houston Texans, they just, they don't care about the run game. Like, you want to run Deontay Foreman 25 times at us, go right ahead.
And it wasn't even Deontay Foreman either. Like
Dontrell Hilliard.
Deontay Foreman was the clear most explosive back on that team the previous week, and then they called up Dontrell Hilliard off the practice squad before this week, and they gave Hilliard the most snaps out of any of the running backs, I'm pretty sure, off the practice squad.
Looks 38. He just has, and I love Adrian Peterson. He's one of my top 10 favorite players in the history of the NFL, and he's just toast.
He's already outdone what any running back is supposed to do to his age. Like even what he did for Detroit the year
except
prior.
Frank Gore. Frank Gore is immortal. But it's
So I mean that's some of the reasons why that we feel like the Tennessee Titans, while they are pretty much a lock to make the playoffs, if you're a fan of an AFC team and you line up with a matchup against the Tennessee Titans, you shouldn't be as scared as you should be. Like if they had AJ Brown, if they had Julio Jones, if they had Derrick Henry, if all things were as they're, as they might be, maybe you should be a little bit more nervous. But right now, I mean, I can't think of any AFC team to be less nervous about. Of the teams that are going to win their division, and they are looking to win their division.
And Titans fans are really they're really, really counting on this whole, like, when they said Derrick Henry, at the short end of the timeline, Derrick Henry could be back, in 8 to 9 weeks, which would put him back, if the Titans get a bye week, would put him back in the first game. Do you really want to rush back a dude that's 250 pounds running the ball every play with a foot injury, like a broken bone? Like, I would not feel comfortable rushing him back. Like, but then again, at the same time, like the way that team is built, and the way their salary cap is, the free agents they have coming up, like this might be the only chance they get to be in Super Bowl contention. So maybe they do rush him back. But yeah.
So if you go back from last year, the MVP award should have went to Derrick Henry.
I don't think so. I think the right person will win it. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, like that was like, I mean, Aaron Rodgers deserved that MVP award.
Yeah, he was unreal. He got MVP as he should, and Derrick Henry got Offensive Player of the Year as he should, which is how the NFL works.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I have no issue with that.
So the Minnesota Vikings, are they contenders? Are they pretenders? Where are they at in between these two categories? I know where I feel. I just want to see where you guys feel.
This is a tough one for me. Just because I still don't know if I would trust Kirk Cousins in the playoffs. I know he's played really, really great this year. He's really underrated this year, but I still don't know, like, if I had to trust him, I don't know if I could in a must-win game. But right now, man, they have a pretty decent defense. Dalvin Cook's great. The weapons at wide receiver are probably the best in the league. If not, top 3, if they're not the best. I would not want to play the Minnesota Vikings in a playoff game.
That was going to be my point. So
yeah, so really, I would have them in the contenders category. I think they sneak in, and
they probably would be like the last of the tier for the contenders. But there's only 4 teams to talk about in the NFC that's left, and it's the Vikings, the 49ers, the Eagles, and the Saints. And of those 4 teams, I think the Vikings are the best of the 4.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my thinking was.
Jared, how do you feel about the Vikings?
I mean, if you look at their losses on the year, they're by small margins. They've played some really good teams really hard.
Yeah.
My only concern with putting them in a playoff contender is if I don't think if they're not going to win that division. There's just I don't see that happening.
Yeah, no, they're.
I don't think they can win a road game, man. I don't. I just don't. I think if it was in a dome, I think they're more equipped for that. And Cousins played extremely well.
Yeah, they might
don't trust, but I mean, if you look at
a dome, they might go to
Dallas.
Yeah, they could go to Dallas. They could go, even that, the Rams
could go
Arizona.
play in the warm weather and against Tampa.
The Saints. There's only 2 outdoor teams, and that's the Packers and the Bucks. Every other team has a dome.
So right now the way it's set up, Arizona gets the bye. Right now the way it's set up, Arizona gets the bye. The Packers play the Saints, and the Vikings would play the Bucks down in sunny Tampa, and the Cowboys would play the Rams.
If it was the fall like that, then they would be one and done. Like if they played Tampa.
Yeah, I'm not picking them to beat Tampa.
Yeah,
I think they could though. I don't see why they. Their strengths are. There's one way to beat Tampa Bay, and that's not running the football. That's throwing on them. And if there's one thing that you can do against Tampa Bay, it's throw the football. And that could be a shootout game, and it wouldn't surprise me. Like Jared said, they've gotten really unlucky with some of their losses. They've lost to some really good teams.
Yeah, a lot of their losses were early on to teams we didn't know were going to be this good. They lost to Arizona early on.
Cincinnati week 1.
They lost to Cincinnati. Arizona and Cincinnati were 2 teams that people didn't have a lot of high hopes coming into the season, and now they're 2 teams we're going to be talking about. One we've already talked about, one we're going to be talking about. So, of the NFC teams that are left, I feel like that they are the one that's most likely to steal a win.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't see why they couldn't win a game, which is why we'll go ahead and throw them in the contenders category.
Yeah, we'll put them in the back end of the contenders here.
So now
which brings us to another NFC team that I think we kind of already answered it, but nonetheless, we'll discuss it though. I think San Francisco is a playoff pretender.
I agree. I would agree with that.
They have a good shot at making the playoffs the way that they're playing right now. But with them needing to run the ball as much as they do, and with how poor that secondary is, I don't. If they sneak in and as the 7th seed and that secondary is asked to try to match up with Aaron Rodgers, yeah, all right, good luck.
Or even Mike Evans, Chris Godwin.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
if they somehow, if Green Bay gets there, I mean, if Tampa gets the 2 seed and they have to play Tampa in Tampa, I don't see any way that they can match up with whoever ends up getting the 2 seed. I don't see that there's any way that they match up and get
Yeah.
can sneak out a
Yeah, I
win
think
against any of those teams.
their only shot of stealing a game as much as
Is it
bad
playing
as
the
it
Rams?
exactly. I was gonna say as much as it sucks to say, Andrew, is having Kyle Shanahan versus
Kyle
Sean McVay.
Shanahan's entire career up to this point as a head coach is being based on getting to beat Sean McVay. Like if
Every
if he didn't
time.
have
Every
if he
time.
didn't have if he didn't have the record that he did against the Rams since he became a head coach, he'd probably already be fired by now.
Yeah.
Because like his
Hard to
record
argue.
his record against anybody other than the Rams is pretty putrid, and the team just does not look the same. I don't know why, but for whatever reason, the games against the Rams are like their Super Bowl every year. So, yeah, I don't see them.
No.
You know,
I would have them in the pretenders category as well.
any argument against that, Jared?
Well, the only thing I can think of that would be crazy is if 3 teams from the West make it.
I think
Like
there's a
that.
good shot of that happening.
I mean, it's very likely it could happen.
I think it's going to happen. I think San Francisco sneaks in. I just think they get bounced in the first round, but I do think San Francisco makes it to the playoffs.
I think they're a good team. I do. I think Garoppolo's
Garoppolo's been playing really good.
Yeah, I think he's under the radar.
Well,
right
well, I believe, also, just to piggyback off that, I think the last 4 weeks he has the highest passer rating in the NFL.
He does. That's correct.
Deebo Samuel, man.
He's so good.
Yeah,
he might be like a top 10 running back in the league, and he plays receiver.
He's like if Cordero Patterson got used correctly at the beginning,
early on. Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, let's go ahead and throw them in there, which leaves us now with the Baltimore Ravens.
Real quick before we move on, because we kind of got these guys in order up to the point. Would you put San Francisco in front or behind of Tennessee?
Right now in front.
I don't know. I think well, here's the thing. I guess this is how we can look at it: is if San Francisco and Tennessee played this Sunday,
San Francisco would win.
Yeah, how do you think that game fares?
I would pick San Francisco to win.
I would also. So
okay, there we go. Yep. That says a lot about the AFC and the NFC right now, man. We would pick like the 8 seed in the NFC to beat the 1 seed in the AFC.
Well, I think that also says a lot about
Tennessee
circumstances,
because we've seen Indianapolis go into Candlestick and punt San Francisco. So
it's crazy ass weather.
I know.
I think Kansas City would beat them. I think Baltimore would beat them. I think New England would beat them.
Right, which is what we're about to get into right now, actually. So Baltimore.
Well, it's kind of crazy to think this, but Tennessee could still miss the playoffs. Like,
I mean,
it would take a collapse, but it could happen.
I mean, technically it could. So basically, we actually looked into this earlier today with some guys that I chat with in a Colts group. We kind of crunched the numbers on it for the Colts to win the division. Tennessee, who does have by record the easiest remaining schedule in the NFL, basically has to lose. They just have to lose out pretty much. So if they win one game and the Colts, they can win out, the Colts can win out, and the Colts would still be done as far as the division goes. Just because of the big hole that they put themselves in to start the season with, 1-4. But I mean, look, if Tennessee plays the way that they've played this week, but even the last 3 weeks, I mean, you're basically counting on them for them to win the way that they've played the last 3 weeks. You're basically counting on the best special teams and the best defensive output they've had the last 3 seasons to happen on a weekly basis.
Right.
And that's just not going to happen. I think what we saw in Houston is a lot more of who they are than what we saw against the Rams.
Yeah, I think it's somewhere in the middle. Like whenever AJ Brown's healthy, whenever Julio's healthy, I think it's somewhere in the middle. But I do think that they are much more pretenders than contenders for sure.
Well, even then, I mean, I think even with those guys healthy too, like just the way that Tannehill has played without that threat of play action.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
I mean, it is a huge difference. I mean, he had 4 interceptions against the Texans. He's thrown a pick he's thrown a pick in multiple games. So I mean, yeah, it's not looking pretty for them. But I mean, we've already talked about them. Well, we don't want to. I mean, as much as I would love to spend the rest of this podcast burying the Titans.
No, let's talk about Baltimore.
Yeah, let's get into another AFC.
This is another easy one for me too.
Yeah, to me, they are contenders.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think their secondary worries me a little bit, but as long as Lamar Jackson is on that field, there is not a single game that they cannot win.
There might not be a single team that I would be more scared of seeing with the progression Lamar has made this year in the AFC.
Yes, I would. Yeah, I would hate to play the Baltimore Ravens in the playoffs, and we all agree that we do think they make the playoffs. I think they win that division.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, I do not.
Before the season started.
Yeah, so look, if that
Jared's the only one that had that on this podcast too. Landon and I completely bought into the Cleveland hype, and Jared did not, and he picked Baltimore, and they're making him look really smart right now. Even with a couple of rough losses, they still look like the best team in that division to me.
Yeah. So that's
would you put them above any of the NFC teams? You put them above Minnesota?
I would put them above Minnesota.
I would too.
I would. In all honesty, I would put them above Dallas. I think they would beat Dallas. I think them and the Rams are kind of in the same. I think them and the Rams are kind of in the same category. But that would be a fun.
Dallas would be such a good game.
That would be such a fun game. But yeah, Lamar is just. God, he's just so dangerous. He's so good.
Yeah.
And and it's weird to think that we've spent the last few years talking about, if you can get the Baltimore Ravens down in a game, that they are basically impossible for them to come back.
That shit this year.
Yeah, this year it's a completely different ball game. Like you cannot count the rate. They could be down like the Colts. They could be down 19 points going into the fourth quarter, and they win that game. Which, granted, I'm going to make some excuses because there's always excuses. The Colts basically had to lose all 5 starters in the secondary, and start throwing practice squad guys out there. But at the end of the day, like, there's no excuse to blow a 19-point lead. And the Ravens, they're
so I mean, as of right now, we've still got a lot of AFC teams to talk about, but as of right now, they're the best team in the AFC according to how we've got this tier list broken out. So
I think it's hard to argue that.
I'm kind of curious to see, how the rest of the AFC breaks out, because I mean, the majority of what we got left to talk about is AFC. Speaking of,
I do think there are a couple teams that I would kind of have either right there with them, that I would be just as scared to play. But
so what about the Cincinnati Bengals?
So Cincinnati Bengals,
I still think they're a year away, man.
Exactly. I was going to say the exact same thing. I think they're a year away. I still think they're pretenders, and
they might be the best pretender, but I think they're still pretenders.
Yeah, I would put them in the best pretender because I would not want to play. Or I mean, not that I wouldn't want to play them, but
I mean, okay. So let's do the same exercise. If San Fran and Cincinnati was playing in Week 12, who would you pick to win the game?
Whew. That's a tough one. I might pick San Francisco.
Right. I think I would too, to be honest.
And I don't know.
They're very well matched up.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't even know if I would put. I might pick the Titans over them, possibly.
No.
Just with the way they're playing right now.
If you got to question that, I think we definitely need to put San Francisco.
Yeah. I would pick San Francisco.
All right.
I think they beat the Titans. I think they would beat the Titans with the way both teams are playing over the last few weeks. But it would be tough. So that's about where I would have it. I think San Francisco would possibly win, but I still think they're a year away. Joe Burrow has turned the ball over a lot. That defense is that secondary's kind of come back down to earth a little bit. Their weapons outside of Jamar Chase and Joe Mixon have kind of, Tyler Boyd's, I don't know if he's still banged up or not. I believe he is, but he's kind of been a little bit of a disappointment this year. I think T. Higgins has been a little disappointing over the last few weeks as well. Jamar Chase is unreal. Joe Mixon is playing really well. But yeah, they're there, but I don't think they're ready just yet to be popped into that next tier.
All right, so we've talked about the Colts a little bit to open the show, but they're the next one up to talk about again. So where are you guys putting? Are they contenders? Are they pretenders?
After what they just did to Buffalo in Buffalo, they got up big against the Titans. They got up big against the Ravens. Just think, if their kicker is healthy, if Rodrigo, if their kicker doesn't get hurt in pregame, they more than likely win that Baltimore game.
Yeah.
The Tennessee game, it is what it is. But there's a very good chance that they don't blow those two games. Well, it's not even a very good chance. If they don't blow those two games, they're the number one seed in the AFC, record-wise.
I think that they should be in the. I think they should be in the back end of the contenders category.
I would put them over Minnesota.
I think they match up really well with Minnesota. That would be a really good game.
Yeah, and even Baltimore. I think if they played Baltimore again,
I would still pick Baltimore in that one. It would be close.
But it would be close. But yeah, that's the Colts right now. They've won 5 of 6.
I think they got to be here.
I think they're better than Minnesota. I think they would beat Minnesota. But that's a team that if they get into the playoffs,
they're a scary team.
I'm not saying this because I'm a Colts fan, but just the way they're built, they are made for. I mean, it's so weird. They're a dome team that is made for bad weather. Like, they play, the worse the weather is, the better it is for the Colts.
Yeah, they play defense and they run the ball.
And Carson Wentz, if he can just avoid the turnovers, which he's done a very good job of this year. Now, for them to actually be true playoff contenders, I think there's going to have to be a time where Carson Wentz is going to have to win them games. I think this week is going to be a prime example of that against Tampa Bay. This game is going to come down to if their pass rush can step up and if Carson Wentz can step up and win the ball game. They're going to, because Tampa Bay is going to do everything in their power to stop Jonathan Taylor. Now, that being said, stopping Jonathan Taylor is basically letting him have 100 yards and a touchdown right now. But yeah, Carson Wentz is going to have a big game and avoid those turnovers that he, in the Tennessee game, he can't do that. So I don't know if I'm ready to necessarily put them in there yet until I see that from Carson Wentz. But I do think with the way they're playing right now, and it's kind of the same thing with Minnesota, like the games that they did lose outside of Seattle, and I mean, that was a completely different Seattle team and a completely different Colts team than what we're looking at now. But man, they're scary to play. And what they, like I said, I've been waiting to see them play a good team finally, like this, as far as they do it against the Jets. Yeah, they do it against the Jags. They can beat Miami and all that, but I want to see I was really intrigued this weekend to see what was going to happen in Buffalo, because they're going into Buffalo, lost to that team last year in the playoffs, new quarterback. They're riding, like I said, they're playing really good football. Can they beat a team that almost everybody going into the week was saying they're the best team in the AFC regardless of record? And they absolutely, from start to finish, they annihilated them.
The best case scenario for the Colts is if they get the wild card. I mean, they're still fighting to get in at this point. If they play a team like Kansas City, I can see them upsetting Kansas City.
Yeah, they're built to beat Kansas City.
They're built to beat teams that are pass heavy.
Well, even then, they're built to beat teams.
Are they?
Just no, I wouldn't say they're built to beat teams that are pass heavy.
Okay.
That's been their biggest Achilles heel.
Hear me out a second, though. They're built to beat one-dimensional teams. So Buffalo is a prime example. Buffalo does not run the football at all. They don't. And Indianapolis like they can cause turnovers on defense. That's one of the strong points about defense. They do like
cause a lot of turnovers. They're number one in the NFL in turnovers.
When you're facing a team like Buffalo, a team like Kansas City, which I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is actually not as good as Darrell Williams. I don't care what anybody thinks.
I agree.
I think that they would match up better against Kansas City than what they would at a team like Baltimore.
Well, I mean, even when they had,
I think they would have more.
Even when they had Jacoby Brissett, that is like to your point, that is a team that they're matched up well against. That being said, Isaiah Rodgers being on the field more than Xavier Rhodes and the emergence of Rock Ya-Sin over the last 3 weeks for them, with Xavier Rhodes being out, that's a big improvement in that pass defense. And we saw that this weekend. So yeah, just like you said, they cause turnovers. Their secondary is improving. They play good defense, and they're number one in the NFL. You want to hear something crazy? Something I heard today? Saw this today. There's only one. So the Arizona Cardinals lead the NFL in points scored this year with 310 points. The number 2 team in the NFL is the Indianapolis Colts with 309 points. They are 1 point away from having the same amount of points as the Cardinals. And since they started 0-3, after week 3, they have the number 1 offense in the NFL, scoring over 31 points a game since week 3. And that's really propelled them. They're number 1 in the NFL in points scored off of turnovers, and they're number 1 in the NFL in causing turnovers. So yeah, like I said, like Drew said, they play defense, they run the ball, and it basically, like, it's going to come down to Carson Wentz. If Carson Wentz plays a really good game and does not make the mistake, if he does not turn the ball over, there's not a team in the NFL that I don't think they can beat.
Well, I mean, yeah, and just not. I really don't have too many problems with that.
I mean, even the Rams
another team in the AFC though that I do think is really interesting, that's been really up and down, is the next team that we got to talk about, which is the Chargers. And so for me personally, I do still consider them a contender, just because I do believe in Brandon Staley. I do believe in Justin Herbert. I do think they're on the back end of this though, probably behind Minnesota, just because of their up and down nature. But I don't think that they're pretenders in the sense where I feel comfortable saying they're definitely going to get bounced, whenever they get matched. Like, they're a team that any given week I would not be excited to play against, because I mean, Austin Eckler could beat you, Justin Herbert and Mike Williams and Keenan Allen could beat you. Brandon Staley, being the defensive minded person that he is, with the talent he has on the side of the ball, granted they have been up and down, they could show up on a week and beat you. They're not a team that I would be excited to see in round 1. If I was an AFC fan, if I was a fan of a team in the AFC, I would not be excited about a Chargers matchup in the first week of the playoffs.
I agree with that. The only issue with that is, like you said, they are so inconsistent, and
very up and down. Yeah.
I believe their defense right now over the last 5 weeks is giving up 30 points a game.
They gave up like 20 something to the Steelers in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, they could have easily lost that game.
They probably should have lost that game. But yeah, they've that defense, even as much as I do like Brandon Staley, that defense has been extremely disappointing over the last month and a half.
Yeah.
They're giving up an insane amount of points, and if Justin Herbert is not on, and we've seen him extremely up and down,
completely boom or bust this year.
Exactly.
Like, he's either like one of the best quarterbacks in the league
or he's
average
at the bottom. Yeah. Well, not necessarily at the bottom, but yeah, he's so I mean,
if you run into the Chargers on one of those weeks where Herbert's one of the best quarterbacks in the league,
good luck.
And I mean, that's why I think they should be on the back end, like behind Minnesota. But I do think they're a contender just purely for that reason of the blow up nature that they could have on a week to week basis.
Yeah, I don't know. I might put them as the best team in the pretender spot. I think if they get in, I don't know if I could see them. I don't know if they would beat Indianapolis. I don't know if they would beat Baltimore. And I don't know if they would beat because I don't like the Steelers. I think the Steelers are pretenders as well.
They're definitely gonna be pretenders. Yeah.
So,
all right, Jared, tie break this.
yeah.
Do they go in the back of this one or do they go in the
front?
front of this one?
Man, that's tough. I'd say the front of the pretenders. I kind of agree. I think I don't think they can beat Baltimore, Andy. I don't.
I just think the reason why you like them is like, yes, their highs are so highs, but their lows are lows. And I just think if you're that week to week, like you need a little bit of consistency. You're going to have to put together 2 weeks of football. Just even a couple, because right now that's not what they've done. And since their hot start at the beginning of the year, where I think they were 4-1, now we're looking at them almost sliding out of the playoffs. I believe they're 5-5. So they're almost in their last 5 games. They're
they're
6-4.
They're
okay, so they won
West, and they're the 6. Like the win against the Steelers was big because they
were 5-4, but they were 4-1. So
right,
yeah. So I mean, you're looking at they've been 1-3. So their last month has been terrible for them, and they barely snuck by a Steelers team that we all 3 agree is not that great. So
no, they're definitely a pretender.
Yeah. So I mean, we're I don't know if I'm ready to put them in the contenders category yet.
No, that's fair.
But to your credit, because they are so boom or bust, if they can get some consistency, I think here in 2 or 3 weeks, they could very, very easily be in that tier.
Yeah.
I think if they get in, no one's like, they are a dangerous team no matter what, because they can score really fast. And if Herbert's on, then they can almost afford to give up 30 points and they can still win a game because that offense is.
Well, that's basically been how they've been.
They've won. Yeah.
That's how they've
so
had.
We got 6 teams left, and honestly, I'd be surprised if we really disagreed on too much. I think the picture's starting to kind of paint itself. You've got the Saints that I would say are pretenders.
I agree.
If you guys have any disagreement with that?
No, I agree. I think the
Jared,
loss of Jameis, Kamara. Now we'll see what happens when Kamara comes back, but I do think the loss of Jameis, for as weird as it is to sound, is bigger than what a lot of people think it is.
Right.
So yeah, I don't trust Trevor Siemian, and their offensive weapons outside of Kamara are really bad.
I will say the addition of Mark Ingram was a good move by that team.
Yeah, and it couldn't have come at a better time.
The one other NFC team that's left is the Philadelphia Eagles, and I think that they're also pretenders. I think they're right on that line, but I don't think that they're not a team that if I was one of the top NFC teams, that I would.
Yeah, I would put them above. I would put them above the Saints.
I think you have to after what they just did to the Saints.
And then I think them and the Titans are kind of similar.
Right. So this is where it starts to get. Well, all right. I'm gonna knock this out real quick.
Yeah. So this is gonna
the Pittsburgh Steelers pretenders. We're good with that.
Yes, pretenders.
Yes.
All right. So where would you slot them?
Over the right there.
Yeah, I would put them about right there.
Their defense is still better than Tennessee's, and I believe in their offense more right now than do the Titans offense.
All right, so this is where I think it gets interesting with the last 3.
Yeah, this is
playoff contenders for the AFC.
Yeah, this is the big one.
So Kansas City, where do they slot? They're a playoff contender, but where do they slot in though?
I think right now, I would put them above Dallas, considering they just beat Dallas. I mean, it's hard to put them behind them.
Right.
And this is a team I want to put them at the head of this, but I still I need to see more than what they've put on film. I need to see more. But at the end of the day, I think
right here is a good spot.
Yeah. At the end of the day, that is a team that if they get into the playoffs and I'm playing against them, especially if they win that division and somebody has to go into Arrowhead,
No, thank you.
That really, really worries me. So, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me at all if we ended up with Kansas City and the Bucks again. It's entirely possible.
But then, I mean, with the next team, whenever you're talking about the Bills, I mean, they just got rolled at home by the Colts. So how do you put them above the Colts right here? You have to put them right here.
I don't think you can, but even then, like, I don't know. I almost have trouble putting them in the contenders right now with the way they've been playing.
Oh, I'm still putting them in the contenders. They're better
I don't
than
know.
the Chargers.
So to Jared's credit,
they're better than the Steelers.
To Jared's credit, we talked about this earlier. I believe we talked about it yesterday even. If you look at their wins, they only, so these are their wins. They lost to the Steelers, who we both agree.
Which that's been Josh Allen's kryptonite.
Right. So, but they beat the Bills. They beat the Dolphins. They beat Washington. They beat the Texans. They beat the Dolphins again. They beat the Jets. And that's their wins. Jets, Dolphins, Texans, Washington. And they've lost to the Steelers. They've lost to, or no, they did beat the Chiefs. They beat the Chiefs pretty handily. But they've lost to the Steelers. They've lost to the Titans. They've lost to the Jaguars. And they've just lost to the Colts. So
what do all of those teams do?
They run the ball. But that being said, that's kind of where I'm putting it, is like, outside of Kansas City, they've only beaten up on bad. I mean, we're talking about like bottom feeder level teams.
So Buffalo, I don't understand Buffalo, man. Like, I don't like the way that team is built for the stadium they play in and the type of weather they're going to play in the playoffs. Like,
it's the exact opposite of how you would want to play outdoors.
I don't trust it, man. Josh Allen's he's going to have to throw the ball 40 times and potentially snow. Like, they're in a bad spot.
Yeah, and they were my Super Bowl pick. But just seeing like they've had the easiest schedule up to this point in the NFL, and it's every good team except for Kansas City. Every team above 500 they've lost to. So eventually for me, I'm going to need to see the Bills play like Andrew was saying, like these few games they have up against the Patriots. This is going to tell us a lot. Yeah, this is going to tell us a lot about who the Bills are. So,
that's the next thing we got to talk. So, I mean, right now, do you think the Patriots or the Bills are the better team?
I think the Patriots are. I think New England is. So I don't know if that's what I'm saying. I don't know if I would have Buffalo in the contenders.
I still don't feel comfortable dropping them that low. I don't have any.
I think they're in front. I think you can put them in front of the Chargers. But I mean, the same argument that we made against the Chargers is the exact same argument you make against the Bills. They're week to week. They only beat bad teams.
I would feel better about having them on the back of this one than on the front of this one, because I don't think that they're complete pretenders, but I do think that they might be, on the back end.
Like I said, I'm still on the train. I still think they're a good team, but they have a lot to figure out before I'm ready to feel really good about that Super Bowl pick. So yeah, New England, New England.
I mean, the next few weeks are going to tell a lot about New England and about Buffalo. That's
you can say that with a lot of teams. Like they'll, Indy's the same way.
These questions we have are going to answer themselves here.
Yeah, the Rams are the same way. There's a lot of teams coming up that they're playing a really tough schedule and against some good teams. And
the AFC to me right now is a 3-team race. It's Baltimore, Kansas City, and New England. Like, I can see whoever gets that 1 seed they're going to most likely come out of the AFC and play in the Super Bowl.
I mean, Tennessee still has the inside track on the 1 seed just based on their schedule.
I get that, but
business, yeah.
But if they slip up, man, if New England somehow gets the 1 seed in Foxborough, like they're going to run the football.
So here's the thing, though, too, with that is, so I believe home teams this year have a losing record. So the whole home field advantage thing, outside of a very, very few stadiums, I don't think I think Arrowhead, um, I think, possibly Seattle, but we both think that they're not making the playoffs. We all three think that. Um, Green Bay, with the weather up there. Outside of those three stadiums, there's not really much of a home field advantage.
You don't think there's a home field advantage with Gillette?
I don't think, not what it used to be. No. I think them and the Colts are very similar teams. I think the Colts obviously have the better running game, but I think Patriots have a better defense. Weird for me to say. I think the Patriots have. I don't know. I don't know if they have the better quarterback right now. Mac Jones. My love for Mac Jones on here is like well documented, but Wentz has had some really, really, really good moments, but he's had some really bad moments. Mac Jones doesn't necessarily he's getting better every week. To me, there were, outside of your Baltimore team, I was told Andrew, like there's two teams that if you got into January, if they both made the playoffs, there are two teams that I would absolutely hate to play. And that is the Indianapolis Colts and as the New England Patriots. I want no part of any of those two teams in the playoffs in January. Now both those teams are gonna go as far as the quarterbacks take them. As long as Mac Jones can keep playing at an elite level, and not turning the ball over, we'll see what happens.
Do you guys still have Buffalo winning the East?
I don't see how you guys can say that you do if you if you like they've got two matchups against the Patriots still to go.
Yeah, that's gonna determine it.
The Patriots are leading the division right now, and you guys say you like the Patriots more than the Bills right now. So I'm not sure how you can have the Bills winning the division.
Yeah, I think right now New England. I would pick New England to win that division, and they get Tennessee this week. So, yeah, I mean now the Patriots have to take care of business against the Bills. They have to take care of business against the Colts. They have to take care of business against the Titans. So they don't really have a cakewalk of a schedule either. But yeah, I mean it's tough, man. The way that defense is playing and the way that offensive line has been playing and Mac Jones. Yeah, man, I would hate to play New England in the playoffs. So yeah, right now I would probably put them above the Colts. I would put them. I'm conflicted. I would probably, man, right now I would put them above Kansas City. And I guess at that point, but I don't know if they're better than Dallas. But even though Kansas City just beat Dallas, see, this is
they took Dallas to overtime.
Yeah, this is the conundrum. Who, New England?
They sure did.
Yeah, and they're playing. I mean, they're playing really, really, really good ball right now. So yeah, I would put New England over Indianapolis right now. I want to put them behind Baltimore with the way they're playing. I want to put them behind Baltimore, but there's also two other guys here on this podcast. So, Drew, we haven't really heard your New England take. Me and Jared have talked about it, but how are you view the Patriots right now?
I think I'm somewhere in the middle. I think if I was a fan of an AFC team, I would be more scared of the Chiefs in a one-game scenario than I would be the Patriots with a rookie Mac Jones leading the way. Now that the Patriots obviously have a much better defensive-minded head coach. The defense in general is better. But in one game, even with the struggles the Chiefs has had, I would still be betting on Patrick Mahomes over Mac Jones. And that's kind of, once we're picking hairs and we're trying to, comb through the bullshit with these teams that are so close to each other, that's really what it comes down to for me.
Yeah, but I don't know if I pick against Bill Belichick.
I don't have any problem doing that.
I
don't like Bill Belichick, so I mean he's done a great job. He's an incredible coach, but I like.
The fact that they got rid of Stephon Gilmore and they got better. Yeah, it's just unreal.
Yeah, I mean they did, they got to play against a completely anemic Falcons offense. I don't remember what the matchup the week before that was.
Yeah, they shut out the Falcons were bad. Like
they had back-to-back shutouts, I believe.
Let me look at.
So yeah, they won 45-7 against the Browns.
So the Browns that we've talked about is like the biggest disappointment. They played the Falcons. They played the Carolina Panthers.
They beat the Chargers.
The Chargers was an impressive win. They beat the Jets. They lost to Dallas. Yeah, I don't think that's. I mean, the Panthers look better now because Cam's starting, but that Panthers win at the time was not impressive to me. The Cleveland win was like, Cleveland, we've talked about how disappointing they are. Atlanta is terrible. The Panthers at the time was the Chargers were an impressive win, but I mean, basically since they lost to Dallas in week 6, they beat Houston barely in week 5. Yeah, I mean, so going all the way back since like week 6, they've had basically one impressive win.
Yeah, but they rattled off 5 victories in a row. I mean,
yeah, Atlanta, Cleveland, Carolina, the Chargers was impressive, and then the Jets. Again, out of those 5 wins, one of them impresses you.
I think the one thing I take away from them is they did take Dallas to overtime, and they matched score for score with them, and that was impressive to me. And
that wasn't impressive. It was really. I watched that
game.
Too,
really like at the end of the day, too, these teams are bad. But it's not even necessarily like.
Well, and
they're winning the game. It's the way they're winning. It's how
the other point I want to make, though, one other point is and Drew, you and I were on board. Landon, you called this one a lot closer than we did. We had Tampa Bay going in New England, just destroying them, absolutely destroying them. So
they won by 2 points.
They won by 2 points. So my argument with the Patriots, and the one thing I think they do have going for them, is two of the highest powered offenses in the NFL. They took them to overtime and they lost to 2 points. And if they get into a game with the Chargers or a dynamic offense, they blew them out of the water. Like, they beat teams they should beat, and they play tough against teams that they have no business playing tough against.
Yeah, so, I think they're going to be a tough out. I just
here's the thing too.
If you ask me one game, am I going to take the Chiefs or am I going to take the Patriots? Am I going to take the Cowboys or am I going to take the Patriots? Both of those teams that are in front of them right now, I'm taking in a one game scenario. I'm taking both. Like, if I had to make my pick, if I had to make my bet, I'm picking the Patriots to lose both of those games.
We've seen the growth of Mac Jones over the last,
we've seen the regular season growth, but you never know how a rookie's going to react in the playoffs either. It's not the same game. Just like the preseason isn't the same as the regular season. The regular season is not the same as the postseason.
It isn't, but I think their strengths translate over to the playoffs a lot better than a lot of other teams. I think their strengths translate better than Kansas City's, than Buffalo's, than Minnesota's. This is a team that, even if they get into
Minnesota, and I'm not arguing about that, so I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, but I mean, even if they get into January, in cold weather, that's an elite offensive line. That is an elite defense. That is a really good running game. They have multiple backs that can carry the load. The 2 tight ends they have are dynamic in the red zone and can make
one tight end. They've been using Johnny Smith as a blocker. He's not an elite pass catching tight end in that offense. Hunter Henry's the only one catching passes. They're literally using Jonnu as a blocker.
I know.
So it doesn't matter what his skill set is. They're not using him to do it.
Yeah, but you never know with Bill. They fool me once, shame on me. But I mean,
I think that they're going to be a tough out, but I do think that good offense, and I think the defense is good, but I think above average offenses can still beat this defense. No, the Jets aren't going to beat them. No, the Falcons aren't going to beat them. No, the Panthers offense is not going to beat them. But I think that the Cowboys offense, the Chiefs offense, the Ravens offense can do enough to where it's not just the Patriots are
are the Chiefs an elite offense? Because they haven't been.
I'm not. They're not top of the league like they have been, but I'm not betting against Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, and Travis Kelce in a one-game playoff. I'm not, and that might end up biting me in the ass when the playoffs get here. But I'm not doing it.
Plus it's not like Belichick hasn't played against them in the playoffs before. We've seen him shut them down at their peak.
And he had a, extreme veteran, possibly greatest of all time quarterback leading the offense at the time too.
Yeah, but he doesn't play defense.
No, but he orchestrated the offense to keep them in that game and to eventually win that game. He did not have a rookie quarterback playing the other side of the ball in that game against Kansas City.
Yeah, I
think they definitely would. I think Baltimore would be a very big test for them. And Kansas City, yeah, I'm with you on that too, Drew. I think Kansas City is if I had to pick between New England,
I'm not saying it would be a bad game and New England's going to get wiped.
I think it would go either way.
I think they would be a tough out. I'm just saying,
if I had to go either way,
if I had to put my money down, if I had to place my bets, all the teams are in front of New England right now. I'm taking them over New England. Yeah, that's just where I stand. But again, I'm just one guy. So if you guys want to move them up higher, I have no problem with that.
Yeah, no, I'm fine where they're at. But yeah, I think they can play with any of those 7 teams that are in front of them.
So I guess the big question is, who would be the Super Bowl contender for the AFC out of Baltimore, Kansas City, or New England? That's the top 3 AFC teams.
Man, that's tough.
I think Baltimore's got to be the favorite right now.
Yeah, Baltimore. You would put Baltimore because even without Lamar, they still found a way to win. And that's a big thing. Which, granted, the opponent's not necessarily the greatest in the world, but
that's 3 great head. That's 3 great head coaches too, man.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah, all
coaching matters, as we have said, 1 or 2 times.
Yeah, all with a lot of playoff and championship experience. So,
I think you got to give Arizona, you got to give them their flowers. I feel like they've been the team that's been written off most commonly this year, and regardless if Kyler plays, regardless if Hopkins plays, regardless if they have JJ Watt, if JJ Watt is out for the year, regardless of what is going on, the Cardinals just keep on winning ball games.
Find a way.
Yeah.
And it's not like one of the ball games they did win was against Green Bay at home, which just makes this whole thing so interesting. Yeah. But I think if you wanted to place a bet on what is the most likely game, I think it's Arizona versus Baltimore. But Green Bay, Tampa, if Indy can make it into the playoff picture, they're not going to let it be easy. New England's not going to let it be easy. Kansas City can score 40 points on any given week, or they could possibly just completely no show. This is the most random year of football that I can remember in a long time.
Agreed. Yeah. I'm sick of
the fact that we have
my original Super Bowl prediction was Green Bay, Kansas City. And
the fact that we have the 1 seed in the AFC all the way down. Where do we have them? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We have them as the 16th best team in the NFL right now. And
just making the cut if it was 1 through 16 seeded.
Yeah, exactly. So they're the 1 seed. So that just goes to show you how
it could very well finish that way too.
Yeah, there's a good shot, unless they play like they did.
Yeah, I think
which is possible. I think it's more likely than not that that's just who they are at this point. But yeah, it's a crazy year for sure. You have teams that win games every week that don't deserve to win games. You have teams that go into games that everybody writes them off in, and they just blow the doors off of the other team, and nobody knows anything. Which is why we are the amateur experts, and we are experts on absolutely nothing.
As is pretty much everybody else that tries to make NFL predictions this year.
Yeah. So
oh my gosh,
I'm fully expecting Detroit to somehow find their way into a win on Thanksgiving.
I'm not calling it.
No, I'm not calling it either. But at this point, that's been the one constant is Detroit does not win a game. That's the only constant.
That's the one thing you can bet on.
Yeah, so
they are the Lions.
Yeah, which is why we gave them their own tier. So, yeah, is there anything else you guys want to add before we go ahead and hop off here?
No, just can't wait for week 12 to happen. So this whole list can just be further evidence of how much we do not know.
Oh, it's going to get blown up bad. By next week, it'll be completely tilted upside down, probably.
Oh, yeah. The Lions will be Super Bowl contenders. The Cardinals will have their own tier. You never know. So we'll let Drew go ahead and close this out as he does so well. And we will get ready to celebrate the holidays and have some fun this week.
Yes, I mean, as always, if somehow you made it this far into it, if we didn't piss you off bad enough whenever we talked about your team and made you just exit out the show, we do appreciate you hanging on to the end. Hopefully we provided enough context to make you guys realize why we feel the way we feel. But, if you are still here, hopefully you like something you heard. So be sure to check out our show anywhere podcasts can be found, Apple, Google, Spotify, whatever the case may be. If you want the visuals to go with the audio, we do have a YouTube channel, the Amateur Experts Podcast as well. You can go over there, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit that little bell that pops up whenever you subscribe so that you can be notified of whenever our shows do get uploaded. We're uploading about 2 shows a week, so nothing, we're not blowing your phone up, but you will be aware whenever the new ones show up. And then, of course, while you're here, if you disagree with how we dissected your team or any other team in the league, be sure to hop in the comments and let us know. And then if you made it this far, if you could like this YouTube video, if you're here on YouTube, we would appreciate that as well. The likes and the comments do also help the channel, along with the fact that we just appreciate the participation and being able to continue the discussion after the show is published. So other than that, we appreciate you guys hanging out with us. We appreciate the support, and we hope that you and your families have a great Thanksgiving and a great week 12 and a safe holiday weekend.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Stay safe. Also too, want to give a big shout out to our sponsors of this podcast, the Houston Texans and the New York Jets. Thank you guys so much for coming through and sponsoring the Amateur Experts Podcast, and just hope that everybody has a fantastic week. We get 3 games on Thursday night. They are all definitely Thursday night games.
And the NFL is always on brand.
Yeah, but we can wash it down with some turkey and tequila, which is my plan. So you guys have a wonderful night. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.